Breaking story, as we just told you going into that break, former LMPD Detective Brett Hankison getting 2 years and 9 months from federal judge Rebecca Grady Jennings. Our Isaiah Kim Martinez covered his trial in November and was in the courtroom all day long. Isaiah, tell us more about how all that came out, how people reacted, because the judge started surprising everybody with her overruling of the DOJ recommendation.
Well, Doug, it was stunning. 2 years, 9 months, like you said, 33 months in custody for Brett Hankison, and then 3 years supervised release. Immediately after, I just heard a very prominent activist here, Alyssa Newton, our senior photojournalist, can zoom into him. He just said, and excuse some of the profanity, people are very impassioned right now, but Bruce Sweeney in the purple jersey just said on the megaphone, he says 2 years, 9 months, that's crazy. And you get this feeling, at least for the activists and protesters, former protesters here right now, that they are not happy with that sentence. I actually was inside the courtroom. I saw Tamika Palmer, of course, Breonna Taylor's mother, essentially sort of put her face in her hands. She didn't look distraught, but she definitely looked disappointed as the judge not only said her sentence, but said the guidelines that led up to her decision. It was sort of dwindling that number as the minutes went by. Again, 2 years, 9 months, that'll be the sentence for Brett Hankison to serve in federal prison, and then through 3 years supervised release shortly after. And you can hear the individual here, Antonio, with the megaphone, saying 33 months, basically saying it's not justice. Mentioned the fact that we're in Louisville and what they've been through over the last 5 years. I want to step back in here. You know, this is a moment, right? We saw the Department of Justice, in sort of a stunning move under the Trump administration, recommend 3 years supervised release. That's it. Last week. So many were wondering, is that all Brett Hankison is going to? That was the words for some of the family members that were questioning that. But the judge ended up going significantly higher than this new Department of Justice had recommended, which again, I was told by Brian Butler, who's a former federal prosecutor, that that is very rare, but it happens. And she said the judge here, Rebecca Grady Jennings, says she took everything into consideration, including the severity of this verdict, the severity of this charge that Brett Hankison was found guilty of.
Isaiah.
They are still in the courtroom right now going through appeal proceedings right now, Doug.
Well, let's talk about what you were watching inside that courtroom today. First of all, the family was giving a victim impact statement, I know, to the judge today. What about Brett Hankison? Did he speak at all today?
Brett Hankison did, Doug. He apologized directly to the family, and he actually said, if I were to know everything that I do now, going back in time 5 years, that he wouldn't have fired those shots. He said that. He said the words were very clear to hear in the courtroom, and he told that directly to the family, that he would not have fired his weapon had he known everything that he knew years ago. Of course, this was before the judge made her ruling on that sentence. Again, 33 months in federal custody, Doug.
Let's go over what was potential here. According to the memorandum they filed just last week, he could have been convicted anywhere between 135 months to 168 months in life in prison, up to life in prison. And then the Trump administration DOJ attorney said, we want no jail time for him, just to serve the 1 day he's already served, and then the 3 years of supervised release. That did not happen. So this judge was appointed by President Donald Trump during his first term. She went against the DOJ's recommendations.
Doug, she did, and she actually said right before her sentence that she's very troubled by some of the reasoning that this new look Department of Justice, these attorneys who, by the way, I have never seen before, they did not step in that courtroom for a single day of either of these trials, essentially strangers to anybody covering this case. She said she was troubled by some of the reasoning. She says in her words that they were diminishing the verdict of what she called a very serious charge that he was convicted of, Doug. So you could tell she was not having any of that recommendation. But again, as far as the raw sentence, significantly lower than many people might have expected with the family, but she did make it clear she was going based off a 33-month to 41-month guideline. That was what she was operating in. So if you consider that, it was closer to what she expected going into today, Doug.
What are some of the things you heard the family members say in there, Isaiah?
Doug, there was a lot of nodding when Judge Rebecca Grady Jennings was speaking. She talked about how long this case has gone on, the toll it has taken on both sides, both families. They were nodding for that, but they were not happy when the prosecutors were up there for the DOJ, essentially making the very same case defense attorneys were making. It almost was a mirror image of each other. And at one point, Tamika Palmer was so frustrated, she said these exact words. She says, quote, "He's full of expletive," and was so caught up in her emotion that she actually, with Ben Crump, who of course, well-known attorney nationwide, was with her. They helped her leave the courtroom for a few moments to sort of compose herself before she came in. So the folks in there were very frustrated. I can tell you on Brett Hankison's side, his daughter, as well as some of the other members of his family, they were asking for no prison time, talking about how 5 years dealing with all this that he has, the trials, the media attention. Brett Hankison's family felt he had already been through enough and that was essentially punishment enough, Doug.
Well, you know, the DOJ wrote in that memorandum that came out last week that caught a lot of people off guard, that the prosecutor said they were unaware of any other prosecution of a police officer facing the same kind of conviction for not injuring anyone. Did the DOJ speak in the courtroom today? What did you hear? What did they say? How did they make their case?
Well, Doug, those attorneys for the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ said exactly that. They called this verdict unprecedented. Someone who had been tried 3 separate times, 2 prior times ending in an acquittal in state court and then a mistrial in federal court. And they really keyed in on the fact that they say none of Brett Hankison's bullets hit Breonna Taylor. He is not responsible for her death. And they say he is the only officer of this kind of case to be convicted on this. The judge, though, pushed back later, saying that this case was not about who killed Breonna Taylor. It wasn't even about her death. It was simply, did Brett Hankison violate her constitutional rights in her home by firing his gun the way he did, 10 bullets, that night in 2020? The judge says, obviously, the jury found him guilty of doing that, and that was what she was basing all of this on, Doug.
All right, Isaiah, thank you very much. I know the familiar chants there. Breonna Taylor was served for 5 years now. Thank you very much. We'll have more coverage for you after this. WHAS 11 News.